Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. The roadmap has been updated, and we have a lot to get through. As always, a huge thank you to my patrons and channel members. Thank you guys so much for the support. And if you do enjoy my content, please consider subscribing and helping the channel to grow. So to begin with, they have extended the progress tracker to include Q2 of 2022. And soon they say they will be adding Alpha 3.18 to the roadmap, but as of yet, that is not there, so maybe in a fortnight's time. They have also changed up some of the internal teams, as well as adding new disciplines. Basically, the live mission content team is no longer its own team and is instead integrated into the locations team, including their deliverables. So the name changes are as followed. The LZ1 content team is now called the EU Landing Zone team. The Montreal Modular Team, or MTL Modular Team, is now renamed to the MTL Sandbox 1, and the Modular Team is renamed to EU Sandbox 1, with a new team soon to be added called EU Sandbox 2. Now there are a few new deliverables added to the progress tracker. Let us start with the big guns. The first one that I want to start with is the Crusader Genesis Starliner, which is building, implementing and balancing Crusader's passenger transport ship as a flight-ready vehicle. And the work on this only lasts 2 weeks, which is pretty small, quite crazily small. They must be copying a lot of stuff over from the latest Crusader ships, but this happens in mid-June next year. So we are going to be waiting almost a full year before we likely see it, but it is on the progress tracker, which is great to see. Hopefully by the time it does come, the option to actually transport NPCs or player passengers is an option, which means by then hopefully players will be able to take transport via players and NPCs flying Starliners around the verse as well. That would be pretty neat. Now the next ship we have is the mining monster. It is the RSI Orion. Now this ship is an absolute beast. It actually doubled in size the last time we saw them working on it, and it is a huge mining platform which now has 7 weeks work, kicking off at the beginning of April next year, finishing around mid-May. This thing is huge, and it is going to be quite an expedition taking it out to an asteroid field to crack those rocks, and I can't wait. Of course, with my new series looking at all these ships on the roadmap and progress tracker, we will certainly be checking out the Orion and the Starliner, taking a closer look at both of those ships, hopefully introducing them to new backers and giving the older backers, the veteran backers, a bit of a refresher looking at those ships again. Now the RSI Lynx is also on the roadmap, or the progress tracker. It is the planetary rover that was introduced with the Phoenix. We don't know what it looks like, and unfortunately I actually have no idea when it's supposed to be worked on, as it doesn't appear to be physically on the progress tracker. I assume this is an error and they will put it on soon. I would expect it to be a next year vehicle as well, rather than this year. Now next up for the new features, we have Targeting version 2, which says it is the expansion of the targeting system to support missiles with improved management of targets. No idea what this will actually entail. Maybe more of a target designation to share between crewmates. Whatever it will be, I'm sure it will be useful. It has 11 weeks work beginning early April and finishing mid to late June. Now the next 3 are all new types of ammunition which introduce new damage types, or in this particular case a reimagined damage type. Plasma ammunition has 8 weeks work, kicking off early to mid-May until the beginning of July, and this says further work on this damage type will cause damage over time to actors, vehicles and ships. Larger weapons of this type will also leave behind a hazard, causing further damage to anything in close proximity to it. This will fulfill the original vision we had for the plasma weapons that we already have in game, and those they have planned for the future. It'll be a lot of fun, not only to see the damage it can inflict, but also the visual effects for this weapon. I do love how the larger weapons will leave behind damage that we will need to avoid until it has dissipated. I think that's pretty cool. Now the next ammo type is the incendiary ammunition, and this also has 8 weeks work happening at the same time, so between May and July next year. This is a new ballistic projectile that burns on impact, causing the target to take damage over time and potentially cause items in the environment to catch fire. And after seeing the latest fire effects of how it spreads and how it looks, it'll be pure mayhem using incendiary ammo, and I can't wait. The same kind of goes for this next one. The final ammo type we have on the list, which is being worked on at the same time as the other 2, is called Disarray ammunition, and this one is also a ballistic projectile that emits electromagnetic pulses, helping to not only damage the target but also disrupt power systems. This will be a lot of fun, and I imagine it'll affect players' HUDs on their helmets and their ships and vehicle MFDs, but also anything else that has electrical input as well. So tools, devices, weaponry maybe. I love the sound of all these new ammunition types, and over time I expect there will be more, but having the choice to pick between these and the ones that we have already will come with tactical advantages and disadvantages, and it will be fun to learn them. Now, space mines are next. This is giving certain ships the ability to release different types of space mines in a coordinated fashion in an attempt to trap, damage and capture enemies, or even just set up defensive perimeters. So obviously the Nautilus being the obvious choice here. This has 14 weeks work starting at the beginning of April next year until early July. So the next new feature is a pretty big one. It is one that I'm very excited for, and it's called Aerodynamic Control Surfaces. Now this is specifically for atmospheric flight, and it says ships with control surfaces will be able to use them in atmosphere to aid their maneuverability. This will allow for improved performance from ships that have weak maneuvering thrusters in atmosphere and bring new depth to aerodynamic flight in the game. So this is probably the main step to getting ships moving realistically in atmosphere. Having flaps or ailerons to allow the ships to glide and use the air to maneuver instead of blasting their thrusters will make a massive difference and create much more of a traditional feel to atmospheric flight. Now, although this feature has 7 weeks work beginning early May until mid to late June next year, I'm still ecstatic to see that it is now on the progress tracker. So the final new deliverable to be added is Squadron 42 specific. This is called Save and Load, which will handle the creation of the save system across Squadron 42, including player data, checkpoints and UI. And part of the system will also store and load dynamic entities, NPC positions, and data associated with object containers. So a pretty necessary aspect of the single player campaign, and the work on this is actually just about to finish. So that is a great sign of the progress Foundry 42 are making on Squadron 42. Now there are a few removals which will return after they have sorted out the changes to the location team, so don't worry, they will come back. This is just because they're changing the names and readdressing the teams. The removals are Cutting Tier 2, Charge and Drain Tier 0, Ground Vehicles version 2, Akiro Cluster, Ground Scramble Race, Reputation Gates for missions, and Counterfeiting Data Download Mission. So again, I'm not going to worry too much because I assume they will just come back up once they have sorted out the teams, not necessarily an indication as to things getting pushed back or delayed. We also have 3 deliverables that were previously removed being returned to the progress tracker. These are Dynamic Population, which includes all the milestones needed in order to implement dynamic populations in various locations around the verse. This has 36 weeks work that will begin late September and continue all the way through till the end of May. Ladders Tier 1, which at this time doesn't seem to appear on the progress tracker, but if I remember correctly, it is making ladders more usable, plus allowing players to lean and shoot or interact with usables while on the ladder, so making them a lot more user-friendly. And the final returned deliverable is Actor Status Tier 2, which introduces various new elements such as hygiene, NPC status tracking, multiple bytes, NDA integrity, medical insurance, cybernetic limbs, and cloning. So quite a few important aspects there, and this has 14 weeks work beginning in April and finishing early July. So to finish with, there are a lot of new cards for 3.15 and some for later patches as well. So first up, we have many new medical facilities for 3.15, which are the New Babbage and Orisons hospitals, plus Rest Stop Space Station and Grimhex clinics. Now this is, of course, to complement the upcoming medical gameplay coming in 3.15 as well. The next feature is Loot Generation Tier 0, and just as we all assumed, Alpha 3.15 will now also include the first introduction of looting, which will generate containers throughout the persistent universe like crates, lockers and boxes that contain dynamically populated randomized loot. And as we heard on Inside Star Citizen just recently, this loot, although it says random, will make sense to the environment somewhat. And I think it also mentioned for Tier 0 it'll be just weapons and armor, although I do think there will be some other little items as well. very limited to what we already have in game, so maybe things like medical pens, tools, and so on. Either way, this is a great introduction, and I am so happy to see it coming with the next patch in October. Now all we need is selling. So next up, we have the Asset Manager MobiGlas app, which we have heard about for a while now. This is how we are going to be tracking all of our items and inventories, letting us know where all of our player-owned items are stored, where we need to go to pick them up, transfer them, or equip them. And I do expect that this will be a pretty heavily used app going forwards for everybody, so it'll be interesting to see how it looks. I think it's called Knickknacks as well. Now the next new addition is Physical and Local Inventory Support, which says adjusting shops and the VMA to support the required API changes for players' local and physical inventory. Some of the transaction code will also be refactored, and several additional debugging options are being added so that they can identify problems and resolve bugs faster. The VMA will be updated so a player can only adjust their ship's loadout if they are in the location where they are currently storing all of their ship-related items. So quite a mouthful there. This is all likely to help smooth the update to moving to this entity graph and all of the work that they've done on iCache and persistence. I do expect it'll be a bit of a bumpy road as they track down the bugs, a bit like what we're kind of seeing now in 3.14, getting everything working as intended. So it sounds like this support system is there to help with that. Now the next feature we have is called Infiltrate and Defend missions, which are for underground facilities to begin with, being the initial setup of spawn closets, which is where the NPCs will be able to come and go. This will allow them to expand the suite of missions taking place at underground facilities, ranging from all-out assaults to situations where you may be able to complete objectives without the need to even engage in combat at all, and will include both lawful and unlawful variants. Very happy to see this getting introduced, as not only will it provide a bit more content for players to take part in, it will also be the test case for how all the other locations will be set up in the future, having populations come and go depending on what's going on, and adding variation to the missions available. So shops and patrons are next, which will vastly expand the interactive usables needed for an assortment of shops and patrons. Basically populating dozens of shops with the vendor behavior as we've seen with the bartender when he does work, which will include coffee stands, pizza bars, kiosks, and more. Hopefully they will be more consistent than the bartender with all the work they're doing on the back end. So for hospitals, they are bringing the new AI behaviors to doctors and nurses. Basically, when a player respawns in a medical bed, they will be greeted by a doctor with dialogue, and a nurse in the background will be seen interacting with various medical themed usables, like medical trays, an IV drip, and inspecting a medical cabinet. Now this is to add life and movement to the patient's room when they awake. Injured players that enter the room will also be greeted by a doctor and encouraged to heal themselves in the medical bed. Really love this, and I cannot wait to see these hospitals in full swing. Now, one feature that was originally slated for Q4, which has been brought forwards to 3.15, is Orison version 2, which is to improve the landing zone with more shops, but also expand the various services around the city. Now, other than the Crusader showroom and its hospital, I'm not 100% certain on what else we will be getting, so do drop your thoughts in the comments below. The final new deliverable for 3.15 is an updated Arena Commander map called Broken Moon. This will include increasing the overall size, adding new playable areas, more cover options, and new space assets. So not a huge thing for me personally, but with these combat changes in 3.14, I am actually at the moment considering playing a little more Arena Commander so I can learn more of these changes, so it will be a welcome addition if I do decide to jump in. Now there was one removal of a deliverable in 3.15, which is the ship interior object container streaming. This was tech to cull the interior sections of ships when they're not visible or not seen by the player, and the reason for the removal, they say, is due to other core tech tasks taking higher priority, so it'll return once they have finalized a plan for it. Now we have no idea what these other core tech tasks are, but at this point I think most core tech tasks are high priority, so hopefully what we are getting is just as important. Now for Alpha 3.16 and 3.17, we have a new deliverable, which are the Area 18 Hospital for 3.16 and the Lawville Hospital Maria Pure of Hearts for 317. It seems that both of these were not able to be in the 315 build, which I think is what they were hoping for, and one of the reasons, I believe, why they decided to move the medical gameplay from 314 to 315. But I am happy that they are not holding off on medical gameplay for the sake of a couple of hospitals, as we do have New Babbage, Orison, Space Stations, and Grim Hex. So I am fine with that. Anyway, that is the roadmap update this week. Quite a beast of an update with some amazing new deliverables being added, especially for 315. Let us just hope that if there are any pushbacks, they are minimal or less exciting features. But my hype is growing, and hopefully in the next fortnight we can see 318 get added. One of these builds, be that 316, 17 or 18, it has to be a 4.0. Surely it can't be that far off. But I would fully expect CIG to aim to release Alpha 315 on October 9th for CitizenCon. And whatever we see at CitizenCon with their panels and their main display is going to be epic, and I just cannot wait. So with that said, do make sure you subscribe if you want to keep up with all of Star Citizen's development. And if you want to talk more about the roadmap specifically today, hopefully I will get time. Do follow me over on twitch.tv/SuperMaxBrothersRyan. You are all more than welcome. Hit the thumbs up if you don't mind, it does the channel a big favour, and tick that notification bell if you want to be notified when my videos go live. Again, huge thank you to my patrons and channel members, your support is truly appreciated. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.